All right, let's talk about strength. We're always told, right? Get bigger, get stronger. But what if that whole idea is kind of wrong? What if real, lasting power is actually found in mastering all the tiny little details we usually just ignore? I mean, think about it. Our whole culture is obsessed with bigger is better. Bigger muscles, bigger paychecks, bigger everything. But what if that whole approach is, well, flawed? What if real strength isn't about getting bigger at all? That's what we're going to dive into. So let's get right into it. And to do that, I want to share a personal story because this whole philosophy, it didn't come from some book. Nope. It came from a really painful problem that basically forced me to question everything I thought I knew about getting strong. Okay, so back in college, I was that guy, all about lifting heavy, trying to pack on those big, impressive muscles. But something started to go really wrong. After every workout, I'd get these absolutely crushing headaches. We're talking days of pain. It took me a while, but I finally figured it out. I was only training the big show muscles, right? And I'd created this huge imbalance by totally ignoring all the small, stabilizing muscles. So I had to stop. I completely changed my focus to these tiny, almost boring corrective exercises. And guess what? The headaches? Gone. That was my light bulb moment. You have to get the small things right first. So if we're going to start small, where's the smallest place to start? Well, it's something we all do like 20,000 times a day without even thinking about it. Breathing. I know it sounds almost too simple, right? But trust me, making one tiny change here led to one of the biggest, most profound improvements in my entire life. And the logic behind this is actually super simple when you think about it. Your body was designed with a purpose. The nose, it's for breathing. The mouth, it's for eating. When you breathe through your mouth, you're just sucking in all kinds of unfiltered air, dust, bacteria, which leads to really crappy sleep. But your nose, that's your body's built-in high-tech air filtration system. It's designed to give you quality air. So I had this realization. I was a mouth breather, especially at night, and I decided to run a little experiment. First, I went to the drugstore and got some of this really flimsy tape. The next morning, my wife just looks at me and says, yeah, that was a total failure. Apparently, she saw the tape just flapping while I was snoring away with my mouth wide open. Hilarious, right? So I upgraded. I got some serious athletic tape, the kind that looks like it's from a movie, and that finally did the trick. And this is where the power of a small change just blows you away. Almost overnight, I realized that 6.5 hours of sleep felt just as deep, just as refreshing as 8 hours used to. Think about that. I was getting an hour and a half of my life back every single day, all from a tiny piece of tape. Okay, so this whole start small thing, it's way bigger than just breathing. It's a philosophy you can apply to pretty much every corner of your life. And it's really the difference between being, say, a dinosaur and being an ant. This quote really gets to the heart of it. It reminds me of this one time in elementary school. We had a cooking project, right? And our group had a budget. Instead of buying a bunch of small ingredients to make, an actual meal, we blew our entire budget on one tiny, super expensive piece of Wagyu beef. We had no idea how to handle the small details, so of course we failed with the big, flashy thing. That lesson has stuck with me forever. It applies to everything. And this dinosaur versus ant thing, it says it all. The dinosaur had all this incredible raw power, right? But it was inefficient, clumsy, and it couldn't adapt. And where is it now? Extinct. The ant, on the other hand, it's a masterpiece of efficiency and adaptability. Sure, one ant doesn't have much raw power, but as a system, they have survived and thrived for millions of years. That's true strength, longevity, resilience, adaptability, not just brute force. All right, so we can take this idea beyond just the physical stuff. We can use this exact same start small approach to actually rewire our own minds, to turn things we can't stand into sources of strength or even, believe it or not, joy. Just think about it for a second. What's something that automatically triggers a negative reaction in you? For a lot of people, it's something as simple as a rainy day. But what if you could actually change that feeling? How do you take something you absolutely can't control and completely transform how you feel about it? Here's a perfect, kind of silly example from my own life. I used to hate the rain, and when I thought about why, I realized the root cause was so small and specific. I absolutely hated the feeling of wet socks. So I didn't try to force myself to like rain. That's impossible. Instead, I just changed my environment. I went out and bought a really great pair of waterproof shoes, and suddenly my entire reaction flipped. When it started to rain, I'd get excited. It was like, yes, my shoe's time to shine. I turned that negative into a positive just by fixing one tiny underlying problem. And this works on a much deeper level too. I had a client once who just loved cheese. She knew logically it wasn't the best for her health goals, but that emotional craving was just too powerful. And then, one day, something just shifted inside her. She couldn't even really explain it. The craving was just gone. Poof. And without even trying, she stopped eating cheese and lost 3 kilos. Effortlessly. It just goes to show, even a tiny, invisible shift in our mindset can create huge results. And sometimes, the very things we think we love the most, they can be our natural enemies, the things holding us back. Okay, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, it's the most important one. All of these breakthroughs I've talked about, with training, with breathing, with mindset, they all came from one single, simple practice. You can think of it as the master key that unlocks literally everything else. And here it is. This is my personal motto. In Japanese, it's "Sore hontou ka?" which basically means, is that really true? I ask this question about everything. All the common wisdom, the expert advice, all the things that everybody knows are true. Just asking that one simple question, it opens the door for you to find your own answers, your own path. Let's run through a few examples. We're told, get this certification, it's a golden ticket to a job. But is that really true? Or, experts and books always have the right answer. Do they? We're told we have to eat 3 meals a day to be healthy. Really? Or that AI gives us objective truth, when it's just based on statistics. And of course, the big one for me, weightlifting is the only way to get strong. For me, it was the source of my pain. The point is, you've got to be willing to question these so-called obvious truths. So, I want to leave you with a question, a challenge, really. Take a look at your own life, your health, your job, your habits. What is one obvious truth that you've just always accepted without a second thought? Just one. And what do you think would happen if you paused and seriously asked yourself, is that really true? The answer might just change everything.